Who's ready, Bills Mafia? It's the Bills Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything Buffalo Bills, every week. Breaking down the big hits and game-changing plays the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So gear up and squad up. The Bills Squad show starts now.
In Bills Mafia, it is the Bills Squad show. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry Ostrowski. The band back together. We've had a couple of 2 in, 1 out, rotating musical chairs to a degree, but we're all here today for today's episode to talk Bills as we get closer and closer inside 3 weeks from the start of training camp at St. John Fisher. And the big thing we're going to tackle today, what Sean McDermott has to do this year, what his bar is for success, because he is, well, one of the potential polarizing figures within the Bills, and we'll get to why we're talking about that. I've got a stat on the Chiefs and a stat on the Bills in the playoffs I want to get to. It is list season. Every couple days now, you click a link and scroll down, look for Josh Allen, and then close the browser. That's pretty much what we're all in the habit of doing in the middle of July, so start of July. So without further ado, we'll get to our show today. And gentlemen, we're back. We're all back. The full squad's here. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you guys, man. Sorry I missed on Monday. Been doing a little specified offensive line training with some people, which has been fun, but we're back and ready to talk Bills.
Jeremy, I'm just impressed that somehow you're the most tan person on this panel and you live the most north of any of us. So kudos to you on that.
This is what 100 holes of golf will do this. You stand outside for a full day, you're going to get a nice base color. So that's where that's from. I got to get some more golf in.
Our new playbook, though, is we go outside like at 5-6 o'clock p.m. Where the kids out. We go to the pool. So I'm not getting like the peak sun. Maybe got to make an adjustment. I got to play some more golf. Maybe that's what it comes down to.
Joe, I have a feeling even if you're peak sun, you probably are more of a reddish tone than you are.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the equation here. But you just wait until I got a week at the beach coming up, then I'll have a week at training camp. You just wait and see this sun-kissed skin after all that.
I would imagine professional content creator, you're kind of like a bat hanging in a cave most of the time.
Boy, wow, that way to sum up my life. I thought it was a little better, but I'll take it. A bat in a cave, that's me, hanging upside down.
Jerry, off for a day, comes in firing. He's ready.
Jeez, man.
All right.
I've seen you guys in a while, man.
Yeah, I know.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Good to be back. So I have I kind of have a McDermott topic to get to, and it kind of came up today. You know, we're 3 weeks before training camp. You're just kind of waiting for the start of practices so we can really start digging into the finer points, right? Like, what's Keon Coleman look like? How's the secondary look? Joe, I asked you on WGR this week, when you get to camp, what's the first thing you're going to want to look at? And you said the corners, how that's all playing out. You know, in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to really key in on the finer points of the Bills and how they're going to build this thing going forward. But on our show today in Buffalo, I was asking my co-host Joe DiBiase, I said, what are Bills fans talking about right now? And he said that he was on a station in Charlotte that was going through all the Panthers' opponents, and they got to the Bills, and they called him. And the question they asked was, what's everybody think of Sean McDermott these days? And that's a pretty big umbrella question. You know, if you ask Bills fans, everybody here in the YouTube feed, if we ask that question and you comment in, we're going to get a pretty good run of, I think he's cost them the Super Bowl versus I think he's a great coach. What else could you do? And where we went with it was, and I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts here. What does he have to do this year? Like, what is the bar for McDermott, right? For Joe Brady, we say follow up on a great season. For Josh Allen, he's the MVP. He can pretty much do no wrong. Like, keep being great. For McDermott, there's a big changeover on that side of the ball from a talent perspective. So what is the bar? If you want to create a bar, if you want to make it as broad as you can, as specific as you can, how does Sean McDermott win back the Bills fans that he has maybe lost along the way, short of winning the Super Bowl, which of course would win everybody over? Like, what is really the bar for McDermott this year?
It's loaded. It's a loaded topic, Jeremy.
Like, is it make or break?
That's why I want to go second, because this hour might be over with one answer, and I'll never say nothing.
If you want me to find it up a little bit, I will. I don't think it means that you have to predict he'd be fired if they did poorly, or predict they'd be fired if they had the same thing. But just a conversation about, would it be valid to wonder about him if it's not already?
I don't think Sean McDermott predictively is anywhere near in danger of not being the Bills head coach for a long time. Now that's a different conversation than if it should be a situation where he feels some pressure, but I don't follow the Sabres that closely. But I can tell there's been some very poor choices with hiring when it comes to coaches and general managers, and then also when to move on from those people. And I think the last thing Terry Pagula is worried about right now is Sean McDermott as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. Now, there could be a colossal situation here where it all blows up and you have to do something. But short of that, I think Sean McDermott is very, very, very safe as the head coach of the Bills. Now, I understand, and I feel this way too, that I want a little bit more to show for what this team has been since 2020 with a quarterback like Josh Allen and a coach in Sean McDermott that specializes in defense when it's the defense that costs this team every year in the postseason. I have a level of grace that he's not had his horses. Like every single year, there has been significant defensive injuries that have taken away from how that unit is supposed to perform. But as I say, anytime somebody significant gets injured for the Buffalo Bills, guess what? Nobody cares. The game counts the same. The other team is not going to sit around and feel bad for you that you don't have player X. And so literally football in the NFL is just about adapting over and over again. And they seem to adapt well, except for when they get faced with the Chiefs or the Bengals. And I want this defense to perform at a much higher level and not feel like Josh Allen is putting together championship caliber performances that end in losses. So I share in that frustration, but I simultaneously don't find myself interested in something else. You know, there's so much that goes into changing a head coach. And they want to get their own people and their own players in the mix. And I'm not super interested in watching that play out and having to take 2 off seasons to get the personnel to the point where that coach wants it. And you better convince me that that coach is an upgrade to Sean McDermott. You're not going to convince me that some hotshot offensive coordinator is an upgrade to Sean McDermott. In fact, I have Sean McDermott ranked as the 7th best head coach in the NFL. So wake me up if one of the guys that are ahead of him become available. I don't think that will happen. I also don't trust Terry Pagula to hire a coach. I just don't. I think the Sabres resume speaks for itself. And the man sat down with Rex Ryan and said, you know what? Yeah, let me hire you. I don't have any confidence in that. And so all of those dynamics together, like in this soup that I'm making, has me pretty satisfied continuing with Sean McDermott. But I can also acknowledge that I'm tired of the defense being the problem in the postseason.
Can I guess the 6? Who are the 6 ahead of him? Is it, Andy Reid?
Yep, that's 1.
Sean McVay?
Number 2.
Kyle
Mike
Shanahan?
Tomlin.
Number 5.
Which one? Tomlin or Shanahan?
Shanahan's 5.
Okay. You have Tomlin up there?
He's 9. Nope.
Okay.
Wow.
Shanahan, I have Harbaugh?
Which one?
John.
4. Yep.
Okay. And what am I missing? I'm missing 1?
You're missing 1.
Missing 1.
Yeah.
Part of what I want to get to as a follow-up is, are they all offensive guys?
Well, no, because John Harbaugh is one of them, but
Special
yes,
teams.
all the rest are.
Is it Matt LaFleur?
No.
Okay, I don't know.
No, I think Matt LaFleur is the offensive version of Sean McDermott, right?
Okay, fair enough. Who am I missing? Nick Sirianni? I don't know.
That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Nick Sirianni.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But
So it's Reed, McVay, Sirianni, Harbaugh, Shanahan.
Okay.
Wow.
Peyton. Yeah, so those are the 6 ahead of him.
Wow.
All right, Jared,
Sirianni?
what's the wow for?
Sirianni?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Sirianni's, I think the only place he could be great is with the Eagles, right? I think he's in the exact situation to maximize him, but I think that's part of it. I think it's having the right coach for your city, for your organization, for your fan base. And I think Nick Sirianni personifies that in every imaginable way. I don't think he can go be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and do well. I don't think he can go to Tampa Bay and do well, but for Philly, he can do it.
I think in Philly, it's an example of the one place where ownership and a general manager are more important than the head coach. as instead of vice versa, which I always believe that a head coach is more important than front office. But Howie Roseman and then has Jeffrey Lurie, who is hand in hand with what he does, to me is what's built that franchise. Sirianni to me is a placeholder, but I get
he's
it.
coached
I mean,
2 Super Bowls since 2021 and won one of them.
I get it. I get it.
Where do you sign for that?
I get it. I know it sounds crazy, but I don't know. Maybe it's because I get hung up on what we see. The public persona of Sirianni maybe drives me a little more crazy than behind the scenes. But obviously that team responds to him. So I guess, yeah, I mean,
I hear you on the ownership and GM stuff is a great angle. I agree with you on that. I give Sirianni a lot of credit for the coaching changes that he was able to make. I thought horrible OC and DC choices in 23, but the pivot to Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And then you also lose massive leadership in Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox.
Right.
And you go out and you put this team together. Yeah. Are they the best roster? Yes, of course. But we've seen the best roster not get it done, and they did.
I mean, but that's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. That's like Dwayne Lucas, who was a long time, thoroughbred, Kentucky Derby, Belmont, all that. I mean, Sirianni never has to walk in the building and worry about talent in the building. He never has to walk in and go, he's walking into Saks Fifth Avenue where others are walking into Walmart and Dollar General. I mean, he never has to worry about talent. So, I mean,
Bill Belichick was a very different coach when Tom Brady was his quarterback versus Mac Jones or Cam Newton.
I get it. I get it. I'm just saying.
I don't think Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the league.
Oh, no.
So he's doing it. If we think quarterback plays the most important thing, he's just taken 2 teams to the Super Bowl, won one of them, probably should have won both with a fringe top 10 quarterback.
I know. It's the most, to me, this Eagles team of the last couple of years is the biggest anomaly ever in the history of the league. And granted, they've got talent out the wazoo, but it's just you just look at the important spots, quarterback and head coach, and it still amazes me. And I'm an Eagles guy. I grew up there. I mean, for 18 years.
The O-line, Jerry. It's the O-line.
You're damn right it's the O-line, and it's the D-line too.
It's everything. It's the Bill Squad show. We're on the Eagles here.
It's the receivers. They have AJ Brown.
It is also it is the receivers.
It is, and they got Dallas Goedert, and they go ahead and bring in Barkley. But yeah, I get it. But no, that's kind of where I look at with this Bills squad. I mean, I like Sean McDermott. I have no problem with McDermott, and I think it's much harder. Here's the angle or the question. You can tweak it a little bit. If you were to make a move, where's the move? Is it a head coach or is it a general manager? I think it's harder to find a good head coach than is a good general manager. I really do. So there's my angle.
I get that question from time to time too. This all started with what's everyone think of McDermott, and the body of work, the resume. If you just look at the regular season resume, it is phenomenal. There's no doubt about that. Defensively, they do not give up a lot, and that goes back to his entire career. They are, I don't know the updated stats. A year ago, I saw touchdown passes allowed in the last 7 years, and the Bills were 40 below the next team. They do not give up big passing plays when they have a good defense built. And last year was without a doubt a step back for them. And to me, this is part of what I brought up this morning on the show was to call last year's defense a disaster is a compliment to the defenses McDermott has had in the past, because it was not 29th in the league and everything. They got their turnovers. They made enough plays. They had holes. We knew they had holes, and yet they still kind of got the job done multiple times. Then, you rise up against some of the better teams. You go against Kansas City. You have 1 or 2 injuries. Benford goes out in the AFC Championship game. You did not have a defense that was deep enough to withstand those injuries. And maybe they never have had a defense deep enough to withstand the certain injuries they've gotten along the way. But I don't know what's better for McDermott. This is ultimately where I landed. Gentlemen, sometimes I like to pose uncomfortable questions. What's better for McDermott and for this conversation? 14th ranked defense in the regular season, go out in the usual way. 3rd ranked defense in the regular season, go out in the usual way.
I've seen both.
Right. That's what I mean.
Right.
Which is better? Okay, they put it back together. They're on their way to having a great defense and they had a bad game. Or the pieces aren't there, because at the end of season, the obituary on last season, Joe, I feel like I've got you in my ear telling me from time to time, they just really kind of don't have the horses on that side of the ball, which is why so much of this offseason was dedicated to finding some potential leaders of the pack over there.
But guys, isn't that the sign of a great coach? I mean, you go 17 years, you get Josh Allen. Now all of a sudden, Josh is doing Josh Allen things and they're winning games despite whatever. Now you're in a situation where you know your defense isn't as good, and they get this guy to change the way he plays. They run the football with Brady. They want to play complementary football. They build this offense around high probability throws with the 5 to 7 plays a game where Josh can be Josh. They don't turn it over and put more pressure on a defense that isn't good enough. In turn, they turn around, and while their defensive statistics, aren't very good, they do lead the league in takeaways. They find a way to make the defense pertinent and get to the championship game. That's coaching. I mean, to me, that is coaching. That's a guy that found a way to be successful. Now, is it success 99 or 98% of the time, and then you have that game you lose? Yes, it is. But this is a roster that's been deficient. And now all of a sudden we have an infusion of talent on the defense, and we're trying to – hell, they even went out and hired Cole Jacobson yesterday, who's the guru of analytics, a UPenn grad that's a mathematics guy. And now we're going to really dig in. They're pulling out all the stops, right? But when I look at coaching and I look at how does this team respond, do they lay down at all? Do they get, when they get behind, do they get, body language? Nope. Body language is great. They go out and they play hard for this guy. They find ways to win, and they're open-minded to changing things. That's coaching. The guys that don't do well are the ones that are hard heads that are like, no matter what we have, we're going to run this system and do this and do that. He continually is trying to morph, and even look at the coaching staff on the defense this year. So anyway, that's why I go back to this. And I think that if Pegula was a different type of owner, I think Pegula is so black and white with what he does. He's a spreadsheet guy. He's going to look at the spreadsheet as the box red, as the box green. That's what he cares about, right? And then he's got this thing known as the Sabres that's causing all kinds of issues. He's going to run this thing more like a Rooney as far as level-headedness when, if this was a Jerry Jones or somebody, McDermott probably would have been fired 3 years ago. But it's just he's allowed him to do the stuff and morph. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at what this franchise has done, to me, McDermott's done a hell of a job. And he continues to do a heck of a job, and he's at least open-minded to change things. And I don't know. I mean, that's why I say, is this conversation really about Sean McDermott, or is it the general manager and ownership? Is that the problem? So that's how I look at it. I think
is there a problem though? Is there a problem?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there necessarily is, but I don't think there is, but this isn't a deal where you change. I'm with you, Joe. Who are you going to go hire?
That's always my
Ben Johnson wouldn't get me excited.
No, Ben Johnson wouldn't get me excited at all. And to be honest with you, Aaron Glenn wouldn't get me excited.
That's always my question. Whenever every once in a while, like when Sean Payton wants to come back, I would say something to the effect of like, because it's not even about who would impress me. It's if you're talking about the owner. For those of you that want to talk about making a change at coach, I always want to say, just like you're saying, I don't think they're doing it for Bobby Slowick. I don't think they're doing it for Liam Cohen. If it's going to be done, it's going to be for somebody that would match the job. The job is get Josh Allen over the finish line. And right now that's McDermott's job. And you're not just going to give that away on some hot coordinator. The next person that gets that job has a big job day one when they walk right in.
Well, the name that when I say that, people will say, well, Bill Belichick was available. To which I would say, like, I hear you on that, but Bill Belichick and what he would want to run defensively, you're going to need 2 off seasons to come close to matching what personnel he would need to run his outdated defensive system, to be candid.
But also, too, you're going to put Belichick in that locker room?
No, it's
with
not.
The personalities that are there.
It's not
and it doesn't work.
I don't know what I would trust Bill Belichick to do right now, and I'm not even trying to be funny about it. Like things, Anyway, all right, we'll get a break in. The question, is it make or break? We had someone on the comments say, like, "Are you going to answer that question?" Yeah, sure. we'll do our best to. We'll get your comments on it as well. We're getting there are layers here. There are layers. I haven't given you my Bills Chiefs playoff stat, which is something we'll do when we get back. So it's the Bills Squad Show. Like, subscribe here on the YouTube channel. Of course, drop us a comment. We'll get the comments later in the show. We always kind of wrap up with a couple of comments. If you have a thought on this, make or break for McDermott, what does he have to do this year? We'll keep talking about it coming up in a moment here on the Bills Squad Show. Hey, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action? Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. So use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups. I like to play the golf. The golf gives you 4 days if your player is in contention. You got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's cash outs if you want to, go ahead and get out while you can, or just ride it all the way to Sunday. I love the golf action because you get long odds and you get somebody to root for. Easy to use, fast to pay out, makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events, and even some non-premier golf events as well. So same game parlay, those are available as well. Watching a bet ride into the 18th hole, FanDuel makes it a little more part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, it's the Bills Squad Show. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry Ostrowski. We got spicy that first segment. I like it, whether it's the where McDermott ranks or, whether or not it's make or break. And this is kind of the easiest version of the question. Is like, what does Sean McDermott have to do? Get them to where? Is it not about results? Is it or rankings? And it's simply about beating a premier quarterback in the playoffs again. They did beat Lamar last year. They kind of got away with it, but they beat Lamar last year. Is that it? Is it a defensive virtuoso kind of performance that would start to turn the tide?
Could you imagine a scenario where the Bills beat Kansas City in the divisional round and then lose to Baltimore in the AFC Championship game? Like, what is everyone going to say about that?
I know.
Like, if the Bills beat Kansas City, the Super Bowl better happen, right? It'd be disappointing, but yeah. So rephrase the question one more time, because I started thinking about
what does he really have to do to quiet criticism? Is there anything short of a Super Bowl appearance that would do it?
No, Jerry's shaking his head. I think it's that, but that's why I was thinking, well, what if they did beat Kansas City? That would mean a lot, but then they didn't go to the Super Bowl.
Right. There are other sports teams that live in this world of really good and stuck. The Toronto Maple Leafs strike me as one of these teams. One of their best players just left, and it's, that's okay. We're going to change what we are, and we're going to do things differently. You live a great life. Everything's wonderful all the time. Watching Josh Allen 17 weeks and then into the postseason, always thinking you have a chance. Life is so good that, training camp is fun and September's fun. And then once we get to that postseason, it's, what is it for? And, some people have trouble enjoying the ride there and others don't. I just make or break for McDermott. You kind of answered the question, Joe, predicting whether or not they would make a change versus how loud it could get. Would Bean ever have to go to a podium and defend him? Would Terry Pagula feel like he ever needed to do that? It comes down to pressure for me. Like, how much pressure should he be feeling? Should anyone down there be feeling about getting this over the line here in Josh Allen's prime?
Guys, you walk into an NFL locker room, there's pressure. I don't care if you've been to a Super Bowl or not. It's pressure all day long. So pressure is part of the game. It's part of being in the league, and it's something you either learn to deal with or you don't, and it ruins you. To answer your question, and I think what everybody wants to hear, sometimes I feel like Sam Kinison in Back to School when he's sitting there yelling at Rodney Dangerfield, say it over and over again. I mean, the be-all, end-all is they need to be in a Super Bowl and they need to win it. That quiets the criticism. You saw Josh Allen and win an MVP this year, and some of the criticism, it's funny how 1 year flips the script and all of a sudden maybe he's not overrated and maybe he can command the line of scrimmage and maybe he can do all these things that all these other quarterbacks can do. And all of a sudden, hey, there's guys voting him better than Mahomes. But even so, I mean, Super Bowl is the obvious goal for this team. And, you look at the defense and where the defense has been and not been very good. I think their job is one thing: find a way to get Josh the ball 5 to to 8, 5 to 7 times more a game. Get some stops, get him the ball more, because when he has the ball, the Bills do a lot of good things. So, I don't think we need this steel curtain defense by no means, but you've got to find a way to get Josh the ball more. That is the guy. Yeah. And I think, until McDermott takes a team to a Super Bowl and they win it, there's always going to be a portion of the fan base that is screaming for his removal.
How are we reconciling what I believe to be, okay, the defense has been the primary problem, but you have had two situations in the last 2 years where the offense had the ball with an opportunity to score points and win the game, and they didn't do it either time.
Right. And I mean, that goes hand in hand. And I think you make a great point, Joe. At some point, you're going to go into a game where one side of the ball is struggling more than the other, and the other one's got to bail each other out. I mean, it's part of it. Bills do a pretty good job of that as far as that goes, being able to cover up deficiencies on one side or the other. But there are situations where, the cash cow has the ball with a chance to win, and they don't win it. So, I mean, it's football.
Yeah, to that point. So I've got a stat for you, and this is it slightly cherry picked? It kind of has to be because I'm going for playoffs. It's the sample sizes are going to be small, but between the Chiefs' 2 Super Bowl losses, so that's the game they just played against the Eagles, right? And the Bucs Super Bowl. Between those 2 games, their record in games in which their defense gave up 29 points, the Chiefs' record, they give up 29. They are 3-0 in those games. That's Steve Spagnuolo, defensive virtuoso. He's great. There's no doubt about it. And he has had an offense cover for him multiple times in the postseason, 2 of those games against the Bills, one of those games in a Super Bowl against the Eagles. The Bills' playoff record in that same time frame, when giving up 29, is 1-3. And the only win is against the Dolphins and Skylar Thompson. The 3 losses are all, you guessed it, the Chiefs. So it's almost like it's impossible to really pick through just this matchup. And let's be real. Has a coach ever been fired for not being able to beat one guy that beats him by 3 points repeatedly? Because it doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot. But that's what we're dealing with here is it's so much deja vu. Sure, that Bengals game is thrown in there, but you can almost forget about that because of a lot of the circumstances around it. They no-showed that day for maybe multiple reasons. They've got the Chiefs have 3 wins in the playoffs where they've given up 29 or more, and that's with a great defensive mind. So I almost feel like it doesn't come down to points per game. What it comes down to is, does McDermott have that dialed up 4th and 5 play in him that Spagnuolo had for the Bills that they'd never seen? Whether there's a mistake on it or whatever. We're so far down this road, guys. We're talking about not just a game, but we're talking about like 2 plays. You got to find 2 plays somewhere along the way.
I look at this a little differently, and I'll let Joe get into the meat and potatoes of the numbers because I'm sure he's got them in that steel trap mind of his, which is very impressive.
No pressure.
Which is very impressive because I wish I had your ability to do that. I'm maybe wouldn't have needed a tutor in math, but I just feel like, and this is something that always bothered me. I think what Spagnuolo does is, and I think he has the freedom to take chances because he goes, yeah, okay, it might work, but if it doesn't, they scored in 3 seconds and I got Mahomes to get the ball back with an extra possession. And that's what always bothered me about Buffalo. If we feel that way about Josh Allen and we feel that way that he is the best in the league or just like Mahomes level, which he is, why are you worried about if the other team scores? You got the other guy to go out there and be able to score as well. And we almost like, to me, sometimes on defense with this bend, don't break, death by 1,000 paper cuts, as Joe likes to say, we're almost killing our own clock. We're helping the other team kill the clock and keep our guy off the field. So I don't know. I think that's Spagnuolo's deal. I think he's very, very comfortable in the fact that I'm calling it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, well, Pat, go out there and score so we can go back out on the field and try it again. And I almost feel like Buffalo, and hopefully with some of this stuff going on, and you see, Ryan Nielsen putting so much time in the pressure packages in the mini camps, maybe we're getting ready to have a little bit more of this in Buffalo, especially with the increase in athletic ability on that side of the ball since the draft.
Well, I think you inadvertently agreed with Jeremy, where it's like you are really looking for those couple plays to force the issue. And I think you could look at the coaching additions, the personnel additions defensively, and feel like the Bills feel like they want to do more of that.
Right.
And I would agree, like Spagnuolo, it's not always perfect, right? They don't shut everyone out. They give up stuff for sure, but it is those situational moments where they always figure it out. And I'd say the same thing about their offense right now. They had the 15th scoring offense each of the last 2 years, but they just figure it out in clutch key situations. Like they have the right call at the right time. And so I find myself agreeing with what Jeremy's saying there, where, you know, it's not the long-term, okay, you scored this many points or your whatever metrics. It's like, do you have the right call at the right time when it matters most? And the Bills don't. They just don't.
Well, let me ask you this, fellas, and Jeremy, you're right. I do agree with you. Has the league turned into more of a, are we going away from yards per game, points per game, and turned into a extremely situational type of league where it's not about the 130 plays, it's about the 7.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, it always has been. But you know what I mean. The more emphasis has been placed upon the 7 as opposed to 130.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand, right? The 130 affect the 7, but yeah, it is the handful of games that really dictate the outcomes. But 100%, like if you're citing volume stats, I just don't care. I just don't. There's efficiency metrics, there's per snap metrics that matter so much more than, okay, you average blank yards per game.
Yeah, go real quick. With that said, and the announcement of this Cole Jacobson coming in and being with the team, do you think that's a sign that even they're going to – because I always believe the Bills have been an analytical team, but now it's announced they've got a Ivy League mathematics guy in there who did won a contest for a football-related project him and his group did. Is that even more of a sign now that we're going to see this?
I have a lot of friends and close contacts that work in the analytics community and supply data for NFL teams. And the one thing that I can tell you is that the Buffalo Bills are always buying and acquiring and are amongst the first whenever data becomes available. Yeah. So they are very much forward thinking and want all of the information imaginable to give them any competitive advantage that they could find.
Yeah, so Cole Jacobson, it's funny. I put a button in this, like put a pin in this to read through this later to see what it's all about. The piece he won with, they're finalists at the Big Data Bowl for their project titled Safety Entropy. And this is just a little call out that's kind of unintentionally funny, but the motivation for safety entropy, a measure of safety's predictability, which, by the way, who's shocked to know the Bills want in on that? This guy wrote about safeties, huh? So here's the little call out to you. At the beginning of the study, it says motivation. We were fortunate to have insightful conversation with quarterback Josh Rosen, forming the inspiration for our project. So a little call out for Bills fans. Like, all right, safety entropy. I'm on vacation this week, guys. I'll sit by the lake. I'll be reading through this big data study on safety predictability. No, I really will. I'll take a look at it because it's anytime you can get a window into what the Bills are valuing and looking for, I mean, you're going to get closer to maybe figuring that out. So let me tell you, though, this conversation about McDermott, this feels like October. Like we are, as soon as you mention the name, as soon as you mention the stakes, people kind of start to remember that, we live in the pressure. The Bills live in the pressure cooker right now.
Yeah. And I think, and this is something I've kind of gotten into over the last couple of years, where I think that these types of conversations are different for this team and this fan base, because I think there's a ton of fan anxiety. We want the Super Bowl so freaking bad. You have the quarterback that can do it, right? We want this. You feel like it's the opportunity. You don't want to let it pass by. And every year that the Bills don't win the Super Bowl, the amount of time that's on the other end of it, it just gets shorter and shorter and shorter of Josh Allen in his prime. So I understand that pressure and that anxiety that I think exists amongst his fan base. And I think that leads to a lot of very wide ranging, a lot of passionate thoughts out there. And I understand where everyone's coming from, but it just comes down to, they just got to do it, right? Yeah. All these things that we talk about, whether, who's going to be the OC if Joe Brady leaves, or paying James Cook, or the offense, whatever the heck it is, you win the Super Bowl, boy, we're going to be blissful for a long time. I won't be worried about those details.
Yep. All right, we'll get a break in. When we return, it is we got some fun content for you. Josh Allen popping up. I'm going to trademark this. I'm calling it the Mahomes to Allen drift. It is happening. I think it's happening. I want to tell you what it is, and I know you guys are on board with this. It's coming up here on the Bill Squad Show. All right, Jeremy White, Joe Marino, and Jerry Ostrowski here on the Bill Squad Show. Happy to have you along if you're streaming live on YouTube or listening to the Locked On Bills podcast. Always good to have you here. Subscribe, like, hang out, toss a comment in. We're live Mondays and Thursdays. Might have some schedule changes as we get closer to the season, but we'll always keep you informed on that. All right, so, gentlemen, we did a lot on McDermott there, and now I want to bring up the idea that the year of Josh Allen is not over yet. You know, he won the MVP. He got married. The year of Josh Allen. Well, I've seen one national writer, Chad Reuter did it for NFL.com, a league-wide super draft. Who would be drafted first overall if all the players were in a draft today? And he picked Josh Allen, number 1 to Tennessee. Patrick Mahomes, number 2. Maybe debatable, whatever. But what I'm getting at is we're watching the NFL Top 100 come out. We know the Locked On Top 100 is going to be coming out soon. The drift to Allen ahead of Mahomes, it's happening. It's underway. It's happening. It took 2 years of the Mahomes offense being pedestrian and Allen winning the MVP. But it feels like you are now allowed to say it, where, you know, Super Bowl rings culture is always going to yell at you. But I think we are seeing the Mahomes to Allen drift in the national landscape in the NFL.
Definitely. I mean, if you think about what we just talked about, if the game comes down to 7 big plays, who is more equipped to make huge game-changing plays than Josh Allen? So if it comes down to where are we worrying about consistency or are we worrying about the big play, obviously Josh Allen's that guy. But also now the secret's out. We've learned consistency too. So we can not only make the big play, we can take what we get and do all those things. So it makes sense to me. I mean, yes, not only is he extremely, the ability to make the big play, but now the consistency, the durability. I think it's right in there what we've seen for years and what we've known for years, right?
Well, and there's the adaptability component of it as well. As things have shifted for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, they become less productive and less prolific. And, they've had a lot of moving parts around Josh Allen the last few years, and you're still talking about every bit of a top 3 offense, however you want to measure it. And so I think that speaks to it. I think that speaks to whose individual impact is greater. Now, I mean, you talk about the Mount Rushmore all time of the NFL quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes is on it. He's got the resume. Nobody's questioning whether or not he's a Hall of Famer, right? Like Josh probably still has a little bit more to prove there. But if you're thinking about the players that they've told us they are over the last couple of years, I think it's fact that Josh Allen deserves to be ranked higher than Patrick Mahomes.
I think so too. I mean, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable, struggling here, with Lamar over Mahomes right now too. The way I like to look at it is, we're always LeBron and Jordaning things. We're always, who's the GOAT? Everybody's got to be the GOAT. Is Mahomes the GOAT against Brady? And there were years that Tom Brady was not the best quarterback in football. There were years it was Peyton Manning. There's years where, but think about it like Tiger Woods, he was number 1 for quite a long time, but world golf rankings, world tennis rankings. I know it is a team sport, but if we're talking about just the individual, who's the best right now? Guys win a Super Bowl and then are not the best for a couple of years, and then they bounce back and then they are the best. So to me, it kind of breaks the mold of we lived in the Brady world. He wouldn't retire for 1,000 years. So we just lived in the Brady world forever and then jumped right into the Mahomes world and kind of got away from just appreciating, well, who's the best at this job right now? And to me, like, that's been Allen for 2 years, and it might be 1A, 1B. Lamar, I still think doesn't get enough credit. I know he got the MVP, but I still think people view Lamar as a glorified runner. Some do. I think they're crazy off base. I mean, Lamar and Allen are leading incredible offenses consistently, and it's just about one of the two ultimately getting the ring that will legitimize all of the rest of it. It's a little bit like McDermott. If they finally get one, you will go back and then everything else that they've ever done will then be plated in gold because they have that win.
It's funny. It comes down to that, the quarterback position in the league. It's a buddy of mine once said, if you don't like change, you're really not going to like irrelevance. And for the ones that continually bash on Allen and bash on Jackson, they just don't want change. And the league is changing, and that's how the quarterback position is going. And both players are amazing. But, the other thing that Allen does that I think is so and I don't know if it's intentional or unintentional. I think some of it's intentional, but it's just like his last contract. You talk about flipping the script and the narrative across the league with media and people. He takes the contract. $60 million a year was kind of the that number, right? Dak Prescott gets to $60 million a year. What does Josh do? Yeah, he does get like $250 million guaranteed, but he takes $55 million a year. So he signs a team-friendly contract. So you can go out and sign, as Jeremy would want them to do, more help at the receiver room, right? More help at other positions. So now not only do you got this freak that makes all these plays, my God, he's not selfish. He's a team guy. How refreshing. We don't see that out of NFL players. And so it's almost like Josh has won not only on the field, but he's won the press conference as well with what he's done as far as the contract and stuff and the way he is. He just flipped the script all the way across the board.
This is one of the things that really excites me about Hard Knocks being with the Bills this year, because I think the world's going to get a look at the personality of Josh Allen and like really fall in love with golden retriever, right? Like just to see that up close and personal. And I'm sure he's going to be cracking jokes and playing, pranks on everybody. And we're going to get a chance to see that. And I think the world is going to fall in love with him. And if you're not a fan of an AFC East team, the Ravens or the Chiefs, Josh Allen's got to be like one of the most likable superstars in sports. And I think people are going to get more of a look at that overall personality this summer, and we could see this take another level.
I think if you really want a good look at Josh, and I've said this before, if you really want a good look, a deep dive into his personality, go to YouTube and pull up his golf videos where he plays with Mickelson and John Rahm and Grant Horvat, and then he plays with the Bob Does Sports guys twice. If you want a personality check on him, go watch those, and you'll realize real quick, he's a dude now. He is a dude.
Keep an eye out for the Locked On Top 100 players. Joe had some votes in that. All the Locked On hosts put that together. When that comes out, we'll surely discuss it. The NFL's Top 100. And this is my chance to mock the NFL a little bit again. I mentioned earlier in the week, they're not doing 10 at a time. They're doing 2 a day, and nobody even knows it's happening. Sam Laporta is getting named today to the Top 100. He's like 94. So congratulations to Sam Laporta. But as we get to list season, I saw best player to wear every number. Josh Allen did get that for number 17. But how about this one? This is a good little mini debate for Bills fans if you want a piece of this. Benjamin Solak has picked the best player drafted at every single number. First overall, second overall, 35th, 210th. Josh Allen drafted number 7. I click that link. I open, see, all right, Josh Allen's the best number 7 pick of all time, right? No. He put Adrian Peterson in that spot, which, have at it. What do you think? Who's the better draft pick at 7th overall, Adrian Peterson or Josh Allen? Honorable mention to Mike Evans while we're here.
I have a lot of history with Ben Solak. Him and I go way back, and I'm really proud of the career that he's been able to have. I always knew this was going to happen for Ben. I figured one day he'd be in these types of spots, but come on, man. Are you kidding me? Running back for the Vikings, Adrian Peterson. Like, yeah, he had a great career. He's a mutant of a player. He's unbelievable. But a quarterback to the caliber of Josh Allen at number 7 and what he's meant for this football team and where he's taken this football team. I did the same thing you did, Jeremy. I was like, all right, I'll open this up and I'm going to scroll to 7. And if I don't see Josh Allen, I'm going to be mad. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, he took Adrian Peterson based off of his college career at Palestine High School more than he did his entire. I think he took the whole thing into account as opposed to just looking at the pro level deal. I mean, Adrian coming in obviously was an enigma, and Josh was a not recruited quarterback that played at Wyoming, right? So I think you look at that, but no, there's no way you put Peterson in front of Allen. I can't say it's silly. I mean, I can hear arguments, but
sure.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's. Did Adrian ever win an MVP?
Yeah, he did. He did.
So he did.
Okay.
I wanted to have that talking point, and then I checked it.
You got me. See, that's why I check with you guys before I open my mouth.
Well, just because we also checked in some. But
CTE is real, boys.
Oh, no,
it's real.
So finally, fun trivia question: 2 current Buffalo Bills made this list, which is again the best player ever selected at that specific draft selection. 2 active Bills are on the list.
I know one of them. So I won't say that. I won't actively try to guess that one, but I don't know the other. And my guess is that it's Milano.
It is
No.
not Matt Milano.
Well, I can guess one of them.
Okay.
Because there ain't nobody in holy hell wants to wear number 47. So Benford's got to be on there because the choice was probably him over like 2.5 other people that ever wore 47.
Well, it's not the number they wear. I did mention the Allen number 17. This is where they were drafted, but Benford is right.
Benford's got to be on there.
Benford is the best ever player drafted where he was drafted, and the other is Khalil Shakir.
Wow,
that's like
really.
Yeah,
He was what was he, 150 something?
Yeah, I think he was 140. I'll pull it up here. Ben's piece here. Yep.
Wow. I guess I love Khalil Shakir. I'm surprised that somebody else that the history of the world has.
One thing that illustrates is the 5th round hasn't exactly produced a ton of stars. For Shakir to be already there, it's a compliment to Shakir for no doubt about it. He was taken. Let me find it here. Kyle Williams also made the list. Again, not an active Bill, but you have 2 active Bills on this list: Shakir and Christian Benford. So
how about like the best player drafted at like 246th in the draft?
You shout out a number. I'll tell you what he put. 246 was Charles Leno Jr.
That's a good choice.
What round is 246?
Boy, that's got to be the 6th round, right? I mean, yeah.
Unfortunately, Jerry, he only goes to 269. So
that was my point.
I know he didn't do 271.
We didn't do the 10th round.
He did 262. That's Brock Purdy. That's as far as we go. 262. So, all right. It's list season. It's that time of year. All right. When we return, we'll get some comments and questions. Have a lot of comments on McDermott, a lot of things, and a good question about the Bills and where they'd be without Mr. Josh Allen. So we'll wrap and get more of your comments. If you want to fire them in here on the YouTube chat, happy to have them and throw the questions out to the panel here on the Bill Squad Show. Bill Squad Show rolling along. Happy 4th of July in advance. Have a great holiday weekend, a safe holiday weekend. Everybody out there, be safe. Want to say that, of course, because fireworks are exciting and fun, and also hopefully everyone's handling those responsibly wherever you are, whatever you're doing. Jeremy White, Joe Marino, Jerry Ostrowski. All right. Oh, one more thing I wanted to get to. Anytime there's a former player that I feel like crossed over careers with Jerry, I want to bring it up. And there's news on this today. Rodney Harrison to the Chargers Hall of Fame. I bet a lot of people think of him more as a Patriot because he was there for a long time and won a lot with them, but Chargers career as well. What do you remember about Rodney Harrison?
The thing I remember about Rodney is that he was a dirtbag and he was a pile watcher and he would pick people off of the piles and everything else. Rodney was a very across the line type player when he was in San Diego. I mean, we used to talk about it when you watch film. I mean, if you got to the pile, you made sure you found out where Rodney was because he was going to come up, hit somebody in the back, do all those things. So I always find it funny, and I laugh when he's on Sunday Night Football with Tony Dungy talking about, holier than thou type topics and what guys do and don't do. I'm like, boy, you must have amnesia because you were one of the biggest dirt bags there was. But no, Rodney deserves it. He was a hell of a player. I mean, I like physical safeties. Rodney Harrison was a physical safety. He did all the things that I liked as a player. So that's an easy choice.
Is there ever a line where a guy plays like that and you'd say, I hate that guy, I would love him on my team? Is there ever a line where a guy plays a certain way and you don't like him on your own team?
Yeah, probably, but not there's other stuff to go along with it. It drags off onto the locker room and all those things, and it becomes a distraction. He wasn't that guy off the field. I mean, he was just a hammer on it. So, yeah, it's just like hockey. I mean, how many people hate, and I'm one of them, how many people, hate Brad Marchment, right? Yeah. I'm not a fan, but, when he's on your team all of a sudden, he's a hell of a guy. So, yeah, those guys are needed. Unfortunately, the rules of football nowadays don't allow you to do much of that. They throw flags, but yeah, he was definitely a tone setter, and congrats to him. Totally deserves it.
Can I sneak one in here for you, Jerry? And I hope that you're somewhat familiar with the career of Trevor Penning, and first round pick of the Saints. Hasn't really lived up to expectation, but he had a big reputation as just a guy that he's a block through the echo of the whistle, and then maybe a little bit more, and like a lot of that type of stuff. If you're not super familiar with Penning, then I don't know that you'd have a lot to say, but I'm curious if you were, and if you had any thoughts on his style.
No, I love that style. I tried to do a lot of that. there's intimidation moments on a field where you can do some things. And we talk about upfront play and blocking and all that. Your job, besides blocking, my always thought was, if you get the guy across from you mad enough to where he doesn't care about where the football is, all he cares about is you and trying to beat you up, you've won. And, so I wish we had a little more aspect of that in the game. You see Spencer Brown get some penalties for finishing plays. You see Dion finishing plays. That stuff's important. And when you talk about franchises and offensive linemen, yes, flexibility, hip flexibility, knee bend, ankle flexibility, athletic ability, all those things are highly important. The biggest thing that jumps off the film on a young player is how he plays and how he finishes. And most offensive line coaches, if they have their creed on the wall of like 4 things that they preach, finish is usually on that board. And that's what gets you noticed. And I wish we went back to a little more of that. Obviously they continue to take that type of stuff out of the game, but no, very familiar with Pennington. I have no problem with it. That's part of the game. That's part of what you do.
Get some comments and some questions in here from people that are joining us on the chat. Good one here from Buffalo Live. How many games would the Bills win this season if Josh Allen missed every game? And if I could tweak this question, I think it's always a bit of a cheat to say if you lost your starting quarterback and it's, Mike White or whoever, that's tough because you could say it of any team. What if the Chiefs lost Mahomes? They're not winning 15, right? What if the Ravens lost Lamar? And I guess the question you'd want to say is if you put an average NFL quarterback on this roster, you can decide who you want that to be. You want that to be Geno Smith. You want that to be Aaron Rodgers. You pick the middle quarterback instead of the best, the middle guy. How many games the Bills win?
First thing I want to call out on this question is let's not forget about 2017 when the Bills had Tyrod Taylor and an offense that, they benched Tyrod for Nate Peterman. It was obviously the wrong choice, but I understand the decision at the time. They weren't getting any passing production. It was a horrible passing offense. And that team went to the postseason. You can hat tip Andy Dalton and Tyler Boyd, and thank you. We appreciate that. But that was still a 9-win team that didn't have 9-win talent. So I think that says a lot about Sean McDermott as a football coach. And to the point Jerry was making earlier about how, you play to certain probabilities, you're going to have a decent chance to win football games, even if you're not having every horse that you want in the stable. If the Bills had a league average quarterback, and I think the definition of a league average quarterback is Geno Smith. I think that was a good call out. I think they're a 9 or a 10 win team.
No, I agree with that. I think they win over half their games. Do they win 14 or 15? No. But you have to look at this aspect as well. If that happens, all of a sudden, Joe Brady doesn't call 5-man protections, right? All of a sudden, Joe Brady's not – the offense changes. And the beautiful thing about this is if the defense with the infusion of talent can play better than they did last year, and we expect that, okay? You look at this offense, what is the best part of their offense? What's the best part of the Bills' offense if you take Josh Allen out of it?
O-line.
It's their O-line.
Yeah.
So when your O-line can block, you've got a chance because now you've got 3 running backs that are capable. You got tight ends that can play. Do things start to become a little more traditional? Yes. But maybe that's what unlocks Joshua Palmer. Maybe that's what unlocks Elijah Moore and all that stuff. And you become even more reliant upon complementary football. But if you couldn't block and you couldn't establish a running game, then I'd be like, it's iffy. But with the fact that they've got tremendous talent up front, they would find a way to win. But Joe Brady's going to have to tweak some things and understand that he just can't let free runners in the backfield and expect who we have behind Josh Allen to get away from him. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah, would it be more vanilla? Would fans be upset that, yes, first and second down would probably be handoffs? Yes, you're going to have to get over that with the fact that you got to ride with what you got. And I think they'd be a 500 team or better. I do.
Brian writes in regarding the question about McDermott and guys getting you over the top, over the hump. We could be compared to Tampa with Dungy, a failure for a lot of years until a coach built a team that consistently won. But even Gruden worked for them for short term. And the Dungy moving on and then getting Gruden is forever the poster on a guy that couldn't get it done. The only problem with that is then Dungy then did win one. Mm-hmm. To me, I think sometimes these conversations like to treat these things like they are, rather than trials, like they are traits. Oh, he has the trait that he can't win. No, he hasn't won a series of trials, but then he later won a trial with Indianapolis. So it did happen for Tampa, where they made that change, and then they burned out with Gruden too. So I don't know if you guys feel that way about a coach that gets to a level but doesn't get you above that. How real those examples are whenever people use them.
Jeremy, let me kind of pull that question out even a little further to ask you two guys this. What's more prevalent in the history of the NFL? A really, really good quarterback winning a Super Bowl with a trash defense, or a hammer defense winning the Super Bowl with a subpar or at best average quarterback?
Probably the latter.
Right. And I think, when Dungy went to Tampa, they had a great defense, and then he has Peyton or whatever. But yeah, I think you got to look at it that way a little bit more than as well.
Who's the worst quarterback to win in the last 10, 15 years?
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah,
Trent Dilfer, yeah.
Well, Dilfer's now 25 years ago.
Oh, jeez.
Right,
wasn't that just 10 years ago, Jeremy? What are you talking about?
That's what I want to get to. Like, I think that there's an era of football where that's true. And now I think that the numbers would back up on EPA and, if you like, DVOA, that matched up in a game of great offense and great defense in the Super Bowl, the superior defense does often win.
Jalen Hurts.
So what's the time frame?
So,
how far can we go?
I just want to go like the last 20 years. This version of the NFL, if you want to do that. You want to do the mobile? You want to do the mobile quarterback era? Like whatever you want. You want to make it Nick Foles? Like,
come on now. There's no dope. I will accept no Nick Foles blasphemy on this show.
Fair.
Is there an argument to be made for the 2015 version of Peyton Manning? I thought it was, the way the ball was coming out of his hands, I'm like, I can't believe he can even be out there. That was tough to watch.
But I guess
Eli Manning.
Yeah. All I'm getting at is, usually, even getting to the postseason, your offense needs to be respectable. There's a graveyard full of great defenses that did not have a quarterback that just never made noise, and they were never remembered. That's the thing. You could have a great defense. The Bills had great defenses during the drought. They were never remembered because they were just buried by a passing game or by a quarterback that couldn't do anything. So, to your point, Jerry, about like which is more important, there's a case for each, and I wonder if we're starting to move back towards the defense being the real difference maker, but you're still going to need great quarterback play because, we're going back to Peyton Manning's that 2015. That's 10 years ago.
Joe Flacco, he got hot.
That's 2012.
I think Flacco gets a bum rap. I think Flacco is a little better than people give him credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't Rodgers, Manning, Breeze, Brady, who kind of defined that era of football, right? Like, he was the random one.
Every one of those guys is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So that's why Flacco amongst that group winning a Super Bowl, you're like, really? That guy did it?
True.
He's elite.
Got a lot of comments on this. Good stuff. One more. We'll throw out one more because this is just a fun question. And that is that someone asked where to go here. I got to find it in the starred comments. If the Bills won the Super Bowl, would you rather lose Joe Brady or McDermott? I'll answer first. I don't care. They can lose anything in the world. They win the Super Bowl. Just don't lose Josh Allen and, like, whatever. It's impossible to even consider being upset if they win the Super Bowl. But what this does get to is if they have a great year and fail again, this conversation will be real.
We've already had it. We had the Bills fire McDermott and make Brian Daboll the head coach. And no, they shouldn't have done that.
If you win a Super Bowl, you keep McDermott and you figure out who's going to.
He's the head coach, responsible for everything. He's the head coach.
Josh Allen crosses over many coordinators. Yes. Joe Brady's not the guy that created Josh Allen. Joe Brady's a guy that's running offense that's allowed. It's probably more Josh Allen's willingness and accepted the fact that he played within an offense more than it is Joe Brady.
I know. This might be the question. I leave this conversation today with this question. Is Sean McDermott underrated?
Oh, is that Monday's show?
I don't know. Maybe so. I mean, it's kind of – this is unbelievable success. The only thing they don't have is a Super Bowl. No other team besides the Chiefs has won a playoff game each of the last 5 years. This is not normal stuff.
Right.
He gets some credit for that, right? If he's responsible for all of it, he gets credit for that too.
I want to
Yeah.
make a comment on this. I mean, if you looked at McDermott, he's almost kind of a morph between Marv and Wade.
You played for both those guys, huh?
I know.
What was that
Played for both
transition
of them.
like? I had that on my list, man. I had so many questions for you the other day.
Easiest transition in the history of football, Marv
Yeah.
to Wade. They're pretty much the same individual. Wade went to a little bit more. He had a few things that were a little more old school. We probably practiced a little longer, not much longer. We did a little more hitting than with Marv, but they're very, very similar. That's why I always get upset when people crap all over Wade. Wade was a hell of a head coach.
Oh, to this point about Wade, did you happen to see? I know, Joe, you did the Bills all quarter century team. Did you guys see the NFL's ESPN put together the NFL all quarter century team and included coaches? Did you see this, Jerry?
No.
Okay. Belichick, the head coach. They even went to coordinators. Offensive coordinator was Kyle Shanahan, and the defensive coordinator of the last 25 years, as chosen by ESPN, was Wade.
Yeah. He's that good.
Yeah.
He's that good. And because he wouldn't wear a headset, people thought he was a doofus.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great call out. I remember people being mad about that.
I mean, of all the things you can get pissed about, they get mad about the fact that he didn't wear a headset.
Do you think that the Bills would have had more success if he wore a headset?
No, I don't. I don't believe that.
Well, we all wear
Wade was so refreshing as an individual and a man and a coach. No, I've got nothing but love for Wade, man. Wade was
You know
awesome.
what? This kind of all ties into the McDermott point, the Wade headset point. It ties into being close to the goal and not getting there will get you tearing your hair out.
Yeah.
You'll blame it. You'll blame anything.
Yeah.
The Eagles before they won the Super Bowl this year were blaming AJ Brown for reading a book. Like, you know, you get close and you start to really blame anything. So that's where we live. All right. Great show today, guys. Good times. 20 days till camp. We'll be ready. We're back next week. Thanks for, chiming in via the stream. If you commented, hopefully we get to more next time. Happy to have there. Hit like, hit subscribe. Of course, subscribe to the Locked On Bills podcast. Listen to Joe every day. Be an everydayer like the rest of us. And we'll see you soon. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Much love. Go Bills.